about a tweet that you had in January 2024. The Supreme Court is a death panel. Is that your opinion?
In the context of this hearing, I think it is important to emphasize why I am here, which is to talk about my views on the First Amendment.
No. That's not what I ask you. Do you think the Supreme Court is a death panel?
In the context of the cases that, not for free speech, no, that was not the context of that particular
Oh my goodness, okay. Well, it appears that you see the Supreme Court as a death panel, and that is some of the same rhetoric that unfortunately we continue to hear from some on the left who are trying to villainize justices who are doing their job. And I would like to just ask you, knowing that you have put this out, that the Supreme Court is a death panel, then let me ask you this. Do you look at Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson as members of the death panel, or is this just the justices that you disagree with?
I do not believe that the comments that you are referring to have relevance for this particular hearing, but here's what I will say. This is an administration that is threatening judges in addition to other people that he disagrees with. So, okay, yes, if your question is, do I defend judges? Am I worried about judges' security?
Wow. Okay, did you all see that snippet? Because if what we just watched doesn't wake people up to what's happening in Washington, I don't know what will. Senator Marsha Blackburn came in sharp, focused, and absolutely unwilling to let anyone hide behind vague answers or political deflection. And honestly, good. It's about time somebody cut through the nonsense and demanded accountability, especially when we're talking about free speech, a constitutional right that doesn't belong to the government, big tech, or any censorship industrial complex. The way she confronted that Supreme Court is a death panel tweet, the way she refused to let Dr. Franks dance around the issue, that is exactly how a U.S. senator should handle evasiveness, calm, direct, and unapologetically determined to protect the First Amendment. And then when she pivoted to the State Department's Global Engagement Center, listen, we're going to get into it, but the receipts she brought, the concerns she raised, this is the stuff the media won't talk about. So here's what we're going to do. We're about to watch the full video together. After that, I'll break down exactly why Senator Blackburn's line of questioning matters, what it reveals, and why she's absolutely right to call out weaponized censorship. Before we roll the full clip, hit that like button, subscribe for more reactions that actually dig into what's happening behind the headlines, and make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss any of the deep dives we do here. All right, let's watch the full thing.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of you for taking your time to be here today. Dr. Franks, we're here to talk about free speech, correct?
Yes.
And we're here to talk about that being a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the Supreme Court plays an essential role in guaranteeing those constitutional rights, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about a tweet that you had in January 2024. The Supreme Court is a death panel. Is that your opinion?
In the context of this hearing, I think it is important to emphasize why I am here, which is to talk about my views on the First Amendment.
No. That's not what I ask you. Do you think the Supreme Court is a death panel?
In the context of the cases that, not for free speech, no, that was not the context of that particular
Oh my goodness, okay. Well, it appears that you see the Supreme Court as a death panel, and that is some of the same rhetoric that unfortunately we continue to hear from some on the left who are trying to villainize justices who are doing their job. And I would like to just ask you, knowing that you have put this out, that the Supreme Court is a death panel, then let me ask you this. Do you look at Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson as members of the death panel, or is this just the justices that you disagree with?
I do not believe that the comments that you are referring to have relevance for this particular hearing, but here's what I will say. This is an administration that is threatening judges in addition to other people that he disagrees with. So, yes, if your question is, do I defend judges? Am I worried about judges' security? I am. I am worried about this administration essentially threatening those judges.
I want to talk with you, Ms. Hemingway, about the State Department's use of the Global Engagement Center to censor news outlets like the Daily Wire and the Federalist. I know that this is something that you have had to deal with. And Daily Wire is located in Tennessee. We're proud of them. We are delighted that they chose to move from California over to Tennessee. And it is my understanding that the Global Engagement Center was created to counter messaging from bad actors, including terrorist groups, but the Biden administration weaponized it to silence conservative groups. And what has the censorship, I call it the censorship industrial complex, what do you think they're trying to hide when it targets outlets like the Federalist and the Daily Wire?
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. Yes, our reporter, Margot Cleveland, who's our senior legal writer, uncovered through her reporting facets of the censorship industrial complex and learned that the State Department was one of the federal entities that was engaging with non-governmental organizations and other entities in big tech to market, promote, censorship tools and blacklists, which were then used against my publication, The Federalist, and also the Daily Wire. Publications that are a threat to the reigning orthodoxies are targeted by the censorship industrial complex. They want to exist without people pointing out their lies or the fact that there are really important debates. And so we are suing the State Department for that, and it is ongoing, this support of the censorship industrial complex. It is the bureaucracy, really, which perpetuates this even more than a particular administration.
Yes, and I think it's so important to note that robust, respectful, bipartisan debate adds to our freedom, helps to keep us free, and allows that debate in the public square. And when you have an entity that becomes weaponized and shuts down one side of that speech and only allows speech with which it completely agrees, that is when you have that censorship writ large. My time expires. Professor Turley, I have a question I will submit to you for the record. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for being with us today. I'd like to start with you, Ms. Hemingway.
All right. Now that we've seen the full exchange, let's talk about what just happened. Because this wasn't just political theater. This was a masterclass in exposing hypocrisy, defending free speech, and holding people accountable for statements that undermine trust in our institutions. 1. Blackburn set the tone immediately. She confirmed the basics. Free speech is a fundamental right. The Supreme Court plays a vital role in protecting those rights. This hearing is about ensuring those freedoms remain intact. Simple, direct, no confusion. And then she zeroed in on that 2024 tweet. The Supreme Court is a death panel. 2. Dr. Franks refused to answer, and that said everything. Blackburn asked a straightforward question. A yes or no would have cleared it up. But instead, evading, redirecting, pretending the comment is irrelevant. Except it is relevant. You can't come into a hearing about free speech and constitutional rights while simultaneously calling the Supreme Court, a co-equal branch of government, a death panel. That's inflammatory. That's delegitimizing. And Blackburn wasn't having it. She pressed. She clarified. She asked whether this rhetoric applied to all justices or just the ones Dr. Franks disagrees with. That's leadership. That's accountability. 3. And then came the pivot, straight into the censorship industrial complex. Blackburn brought in Molly Hemingway, and this is where things get serious. The State Department's Global Engagement Center was supposed to combat foreign propaganda and terrorist messaging. Instead, according to reporting by Margot Cleveland in The Federalist, it was allegedly working with NGOs, coordinating with big tech, promoting blacklists, and helping censor voices the government disagreed with, especially conservative outlets like The Federalist and the Daily Wire. That's not engagement. That's not public safety. That is government-assisted censorship, and Senator Blackburn called it exactly what it is, a weaponized system designed to silence dissent. 4. Blackburn emphasized bipartisan debate, and she's right. She reminded everyone that real freedom includes disagreement. A functioning democracy requires open debate, not one side shutting down the other simply because it makes them uncomfortable or exposes their contradictions. When only one narrative is allowed to exist, that's not democracy. That's not America. That's enforced conformity, and Blackburn is standing firmly against it. 5. The contrast on display was crystal clear. On one side, evasion, deflection, refusal to justify public rhetoric, no accountability. On the other, clear questions, focused defense of constitutional rights, exposure of government overreach, commitment to open public discourse. Senator Marsha Blackburn didn't just ask questions, she demanded clarity. She peeled back the layers of bureaucratic doublespeak and drew attention to something every American should care about, your right to speak freely without the government, or big tech acting on behalf of the government, shutting you down. And that's why I stand with her on this. If you care about free speech, if you believe no administration should have the power to decide which viewpoints are allowed and which are censored, then, like this video, drop a comment, let me know what you think about the hearing, subscribe for more deep dive reaction commentary, and share this video. People need to see what's happening.